Welcome back to another episode of When Life Gives You Lemons. Today, I want to talk about change and my personal relationship with it. From what I've seen through the people I've met and the experiences I've had, I can safely say that most people don't like change. They might say, oh, yeah, I love change. But when things shift beyond their control, when their comfort zone gets disrupted, most people react. Most people are triggered. Sure, some people manage change better than others. That's why change management is a whole thing, especially in companies. For example, during process engineering or shifts in how things are done, it's common to face resistance. People say things like, this is how we've always done it. You can just come in and change everything. So, what do companies do? They involve people in the process. They gather input, offer training, create a sense of ownership because they know without that, the pushback will be fierce. And all of that makes sense. But life doesn't always work like that. Have you ever had a moment where everything felt perfect? Maybe at work, you had the best team, things were flowing, you felt confident, and then out of nowhere, leadership says, we're changing direction. Maybe your role changes, your team shifts, your services get redefined, and you're left thinking, what just happened? That's when fear kicks in. Resentment, panic, wondering you should start looking elsewhere. And sometimes life throws change at you in ways you never asked for. Like when your parents split up or someone gets sick and your entire world has to rearrange itself. Suddenly, you're caregiving, adjusting, surviving. These are massive changes. Looking back, I can say with certainty I didn't like change. I didn't even realize how deep my resistance was until things kept falling apart over and over again. I could be thriving somewhere, and then boom, my job didn't feel right anymore. Sometimes the financial pressure was so intense, I had to take a step back. And even when I did land a new opportunity, just when I got comfortable, someone new would be brought in, usually to shake things up. And I resist hard. I might eventually get on board, but not without a fight. I just couldn't stand change. It took a long time to understand why. One breakthrough came through energy healing. I won't mention the modality because my experience with it might differ from how it's taught and practiced today. But at the time, it was like a full reset, like flushing everything out emotionally, energetically. But let me back up a bit. I started seeing the pattern even earlier. You see, when I was growing up, I changed school a lot. Not because we had to, or because I was a bad student, just because, my family was always searching for the best school. So I started out in a reputable place, then I was moved to a military style school. I spent 3 years there, formed connections, and then again, I moved school, and again, and again. By the time I was 12, I'd already been in four different schools. Every time I was a new kid. Every time I had to rebuild from scratch, and it wasn't easy. In one school, the bullying was brutal, not just from the other kids, but from adults too. It shaped something deep inside me, a belief that change meant pain, disruption, isolation, shame. Eventually, I made it to university. I spent 6 years there, the longest I'd ever been in one place. I love it so much that I even considered staying on to teach. But life had other plans. My first job came through a recommendation from my dad. And when that ended, I started looking into therapy. I remember my mom saying, therapy is just for blaming your parents. But by then, I'd already started exploring spiritual work. That's when I came across this energy modality. The idea was to flush everything out. Yes, everything would collapse, but in the rubble, you'd be left with a blank canvas, a chance to start again. So I did it. I went through a dozen or more sessions, and as promised, my life collapsed. I left my job, faced intense emotional baggage, and experienced massive shifts in every area: career, friendships, identity. Something I needed back then was integration, and I wish I had a therapist to take me by the hand and help me through the change. But still, I stayed committed. I was desperate to feel better, to heal whatever was buried deep inside. I studied other modalities, awakened my intuitive abilities, and kept going through cycles of collapse and rebirth. For nearly a decade, it was change, drama, rebuild, repeat. And it wasn't until I found a specific type of therapy that I finally confronted the root of it all. And here's where I want to bring in something I now understand deeply, not just personally, but as someone immersed in therapy and transformation work. Resistance to change is one of the brain's oldest, most primal fears. It's not just about comfort zones or bad habits, fear of change lives in our survival wiring. The brain interprets uncertainty as danger. Change, especially unexpected change, threatens our sense of safety. So it makes sense that we push back, even if the change is positive, even if it's necessary. Our nervous system would rather stay in a painful known than leap into an unknown that could be better. Add childhood instability, emotional trauma, or early betrayal to that equation, and the fear of change becomes a full blown internal war. That was me. That's what I was navigating. Through therapy, I realized how much emotion I had never acknowledged: frustration, grief, rage, all buried, all feeding that internal resistance. And of course, my family dynamics played a part. My dad, bless him, hated change. We used to joke in our therapy sessions, calling him, "Your dad, don't make waves." And I realized I had built my whole life around that principle: keep things calm, don't upset the system, don't rock the boat. Once I broke that pattern, once I allowed myself to feel, everything shifted. Suddenly, life was flowing. I loved my job. I was in a relationship that felt alive. And for the first time, I made a massive change, not out of collapse, but out of desire, out of love. I moved countries. I started fresh. A new language, new culture, new everything. And even though I had dreamed of starting over in a place where no one knew me, guess what? I recreated some of the same dynamics, even married someone with traits like my father. But this time I saw it, I understood it. And over time, with ups and downs, I came to this truth: change is inevitable, but it's also sacred. We're not here to stay fixed, we are here to grow, to evolve, to become. And the more we acknowledge and work through what's under our resistance, the fear, the sadness, the wounds, the more we can meet change not as a threat but as a teacher. So if you're someone who fears change, or you find yourself repeating the same patterns, the same "what is going on again" moments, please know you're not alone. If you feel stuck and you don't know how to move forward, that is also fear of change. And if you want to explore this deeper, follow me. Maybe we can work together. Maybe we can learn how to meet change in a way that frees us instead of breaking us. So my top three takeaways of this session is: number one, resistance to change is primal, not personal. It's wired into our nervous system to fear the unknown, even when it holds something better. The brain links change with risk, And unless we consciously work through that fear, we stay stuck in our old cycles. Number two, unprocessed emotions fuel resistance. Behind every pushback to change, whether it's your job, relationship, or self, is often buried frustration, grief, or fear. When we don't acknowledge these emotions, we unconsciously recreate the same dynamics we're trying to escape. Number three, healing your relationship with change leads to freedom. True transformation doesn't come from controlling everything. It comes from meeting change with awareness, curiosity, and courage. When you shift your internal response, life doesn't have to fall apart to move forward. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I'll see you again next time in When Life Gives You Lemons.